What is going on, you guys? It is your boy Matt Talks Films, and I am back with another video, and I am back with another review. And this time, I am talking about the second Predator installment of this very year, Predator Badlands. It's also the second Predator film that Dan Trachtenberg has made this year. It's his third overall. So this guy is in love with the Predator franchise and the world that the Predator coincides with, and I am so hyped to talk about this film. And I am ultimately blown away with the film I got here. And I really shouldn't be surprised because the last Dan Trachtenberg Predator film I saw was Prey, and I love that movie quite a bit. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so I really shouldn't be that blown away. But to be honest, after I saw the trailers of this film, I was expecting schlock. No offense, I was expecting your prototypical Predator film. And I did not get that. And in fact, I got something that was a huge swing and honestly a huge hit in my opinion. It's a bold, creative installment in a franchise that needed something creative and bold. So if you made it this far in the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Why not? You already clicked on the video. Just subscribe. Leave a measly subscription for your boy. Now, let's get into it. Follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. You know the deal. But let's get into it. Predator Badlands, directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who might be the greatest director to behold these films, or just the director that thoroughly enjoys this world and the realm and the lore that coexist with Predator. The way he has elevated this franchise and this concept is very similar to how James Cameron and Ridley Scott elevated Alien and Terminator. Okay, because Ridley Scott and James Cameron, two of the greatest filmmakers we've ever gotten. I'm not ready to say Dan Trachtenberg is even close to that, of course, because he has a very minimal filmography compared to those two, and he hasn't made as great as films as those two have made. But the way he reminds me of those two is that he clearly knows what he wants to do with these films, and he clearly loves these films so much that he's elevating the product of this film and its concept. Ridley Scott, he revolutionized sci-fi with Alien. James Cameron made Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 two of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time. And he clearly loved the lore, loved the concept, and he elevated that franchise, which would go on to make schlock afterwards. But Dan Trachtenberg, he's made 3 Predator films, and he loves this world, and he clearly knows where he wants to go with it. And that is evident through 2 of the Predator films I've seen from him. And I'm sure that's evident with Killers of Killers, the animation film that I haven't seen yet, which is also a Predator film. And I have to watch that immediately, and hopefully I watch that tonight during Thursday Night Football. But anyway, let's get into this film, and I'm going to tell you the synopsis of this story. It's not my synopsis, it's the Letterboxd synopsis, but I'm just going to tell the synopsis, and then I'm going to go off this film and what it's about as this video continues and what I loved about this film. So anyway, Dek is cast out from his clan Yachua. He's a young predator who finds an unlikely ally in a damaged android and embarks on a treacherous journey in search for the ultimate adversary to bring back home and to finally get that validation from the rest of his clan that he is not the weakest. Because that is the main pull from this movie. Dek is seemingly a 5'8", 5'6" young king, which is very small compared to the rest of the predators. And according to his father and the rest of the clan, he is the weakest of this entire clan. So how does he become a cast out? He was supposed to die. His brother, Wei, was supposed to kill him, and his father shows up after Wei and Dek get into this battle. Wei tells Dek, hey, if you pick a adversary and you bring it back home, you will be validated. And that's the mission for Dek. He's going to go to the hardest planet, which is Genna, which even his father and the rest of his clan fear, and they won't dare to go to. But he's going to go and bring back a Kalashik, which is this big monster. And he decides to do it, but ultimately his father arrives to the spot where Wei and Dek are. And Wei is not surprised to see the father, but Dek is. And Wei is confronted by his father because Wei was ultimately supposed to kill his brother, but Wei didn't. And ultimately, Wei doesn't decide to kill Dek even when his father shows up, which leads to the death of Wei. And Dek is cast out to Genna, and he is there stranded, and he has to bring back the Kalasek and show that he defeated it to come back and be validated by his father and his clan. Now, is that how everything pans out? Not exactly, but that is the stage for this film, and that is the setting for this film. We go from the Yachua tribe and his father, that planet, and we get cast away into Genna, which is maybe one of the greatest send-offs into a planet I've ever seen. And listen, a lot of people are going to be divisive about this film. A lot of people are not going to like it because there are comedic aspects to this film you might not expect and you might not want from a Predator film. A lot of people want a straightforward Predator film that is serious but is a sci-fi film. Sure, they might want some comedic levity, but this film has quite a bit of comedy. And to me, I'm shocked it worked. The comedy in this film is quite good, especially for the subject matter and the concept we're dealing with. So Wei, he dies. He dies at the hands of the father, and Deck is sent off to Genna. And when he gets to Genna, he's this predator. He has the same instinctual thoughts and thought processes of the Yetchaway tribe. He's there to bring home the Kalisic so he can prove to his father that he is not the weakest and he's meant to sit amongst the rest of the Yachawa tribe. And that's the story of this film. And when he gets to Genna, he is facing a whole bunch of adversity. When we see the previous Predator films, which I didn't watch all of them to prepare for this film, but I'm very familiar with those films because one, I grew up with those films. Luckily, my mom showed me all those films, so I love those films. I love the original Predator. I think it's a masterpiece. Predator 2 is forgettable. Predators with Adrian Brody is actually a good film in my opinion. I like it. The Predator with Michael Key is horrible, and ultimately, besides Predator One, Predators, all those movies are bad in my opinion. It's Predator One and Predators and Prey. Those are the only good Predator movies. So I was expecting schlock with this movie, and then we get maybe the second or third best Predator film with Predator's Badland. So Dan Trachtenberg, what a guy, what a guy. He just understands this. And he set up a sequel at the end of this film, and it's quite evident he has a lot more of the story to tell. And I'm excited to see where he goes with this. And I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end of this film, but nonetheless, there's a sequel coming to this film. If this movie profits, which I don't know if this movie's going to profit, I don't know, but I think a lot of people will go see this film because one, the word of mouth of this film is going to be quite interesting to develop and listen to because I have a feeling a lot of people won't like this movie despite the good rating on Letterboxd right now. It's a 3.6. In my opinion, I'm higher than that. I think it's like a 4.5, without spoiling my rating for this film. But ultimately, this film works quite a bit for me. Ella Fanning is the star of this film. She plays two characters, Tia and Tessa. She is this android who Deck, the young predator, meets on Genna. Now, he reluctantly does not want to be with her on this journey to find the Kelisek. He just doesn't because predators hunt alone and he should hunt alone, but she offers to him like, hey, I'm this tool. If you bring me along this journey, you can use me to get the Kelisek. So ultimately he sees her as a tool and not as a human being or someone with feelings and emotions that is accompanying him and helping him with this hunt. So as he finds himself getting the shit beat out of him ultimately on the planet of Genna, he ultimately has to use the help of this tool in Tia. So that is great, and I really like that. And I think Ella Fanning brings a great quality to this film that I wouldn't expect. She's the best actor in this film. There's a couple people who play the Predator. Demetrius Schuster. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm sorry, bro. I wish I figured out how to pronounce his last name, but I'm just going to call him Demetrius Schuster. He plays Deck, who is the main predator in this film, and he also plays the father, which is quite interesting. So we have Ella Fanning playing two characters, and then we have Demetrius Schuster playing two characters. We also get another person named Michael Homick, who's the suit of Way, and then Stephen Grube, who's the voice of Way. And this film just rocks from start to finish. When the scene first opens, we get this confrontation between Way and his brother Deck, who's the main character of this film, alongside Ella Fanning. And it's the first time we've ever seen a Predator talk this much and expand upon the world of Predator. And I was laughing to start this film. It wasn't because anything I saw in the film was bad, but it's just like the Predator that we're seeing has this emotional depth and is having this intense dialogue with his brother. There's no mask on the Predators, and the tense conversations him and his brother are having, it's just hard to get used to and wrap your head around, especially with what else we've got with the Predator franchise. So when this film opens like that, it's shocking because it's not something we're used to, and that is so important to me, and that's why I like this film quite a bit because Dan Trachtenberg could easily made something we've seen before within the Predator franchise, and he could have easily used the formula that we've seen before. Instead, he tries something different, unique, and creative. And that's, I think, the main reason why I love this film so much, is that this film is a huge swing by Dan Trachtenberg, and it pays off. It's a home run, in my opinion. As big as a home run you can get within the sci-fi realm, particularly the Predator realm. So I enjoyed that aspect of this film a lot. And I know I'm a little bit all over the place here. I'm trying to hone down my feelings for this film. I just saw this film literally 30, 45 minutes ago. The film ended. So I have a lot to say. And I don't want to talk about this film too in depthly because, one, you should go into this film blind. Because this film exceeds expectations and it takes you to places you might not ever think it would take you. Let's talk about the planet Agena, okay? So, the reason why Deck chooses this planet is because his father and his brother and the entirety of the Yachua clan fears this planet and thinks the Kelsek is unbeatable. And god damn it, they're pretty goddamn right. I mean, this is a regenerative creature that if you cut off his limb, he regenerates quite quickly. If you cut off his head, it regenerates quite quickly. So you have to kill it within the creature. You have to hope the creature eats you and you blow it up from within. So you can't beat it. You can't unless you get lucky. Um, and when he gets to this planet Agena, he has this arrogant and ignorant sense of thinking like this is going to be easy. But as soon as he lands on Gena, he realizes he's out of his element. And there's a whole bunch of things on this planet outside of the Kalisek that will destroy you and that will ultimately beat you if you aren't careful of your surroundings or if you aren't fit to the task. And honestly, he should have died on this planet if it wasn't for the android who he meets in this fields of needles that will paralyze you every couple minutes because a rock from a creature will fall and the needles will disperse. So, and those needles will paralyze you, leaving you to be eaten by this other creature, which I forget the name of, on this planet of Gena. And ultimately, he chooses to use Tia as his weapon, as his tool, so she can help him along his journey. And I think a lot of people are going to equate this to like a video game. First of all, if this was a video game, it'd be a video game of the year. So I love that part of this film, and I feel like this movie might get turned into a video game, or at least it should, because it would be an elite video game. It would be one of the greatest journeys you will ever go on in a video game. But with that, in the same breath, when it pertains to it being a journey and an odyssey and an adventure, it's one of the best journeys and adventures I've been on in a sci-fi film in some time. You are thrown into this world, Gemma, no hand-holding, no ridiculous exposition, and you are completely fine with it. You are immersified within this world of Jenna, and you are feeling the trepidations and this hardships that Deck, who is painted as this short and underwhelming predator, but you still know the weapons he has and the powers that he holds, and you still feel the trepidations and hardships that he's going through on Jenna. He's overmatched, and he has to get out of this arrogant and ignorant sense of thinking that he's been born under. And his father and the rest of the Achua tribe believe sensitivity and all these completely humane emotions and regular sense of thinkings are weaknesses. And that's ultimately what gets Wei killed by his father, and that's ultimately why his father rejects Deck, is because he thinks he's weak, he thinks he's sensitive, and he thinks he's too in tune with his emotions, that he doesn't belong in the Achua tribe and he should be killed or cast away. So when Deck hears this and he understands this, he has a point to prove, and he's trying to shy away from his true feelings and emotions. He wants to be, first of all, validated within the tribe, and he also wants to get rid of the naturalistic emotions he has, which is being sensitive and being innate with feeling for others. And ultimately, he realizes that that's the life he kind of wants to live, and he doesn't want to be alone. He doesn't want to hunt alone, and he finds that on this journey of Jenna. Despite the journey on Jenna being treacherous, he comes across Bud, who is ultimately the son of the Kalisek monster he is hunting, and he makes friends with Tia, who is this android who is first legless, and he makes friends with her. And ultimately, after Tia tells him about the animal on Earth, which is a wolf, he begins to relate and like the wolf, which a wolf, when she's first telling him the story, he's like, "Oh, so the alpha wolf has the most kills. He's the best predator." And she's like, "No, the wolf pack has the most kills, and ultimately the wolf relies on the pack. It never hunts alone." So ultimately, that's who he wants to become, and that's who he becomes at the end of this with the Cowsack Kid and Tia. So first of all, this film is full of action, and it's full of action that doesn't let you down. There's a plethora of fights in this movie that excite you and entertain you, and that are beautifully done in terms of its choreography. And honestly, this film could have been a CGI mess, and there's CGI in this film. Don't get me wrong. This wouldn't have been a film without any CGI, and this film would have cost a lot more money without CGI. But the CGI is not that noticeable, and that's something I really appreciate. This film could have easily been CGI schlock, and instead, I'm curious where they filmed this film, first of all, because the planet of Jenna is beautiful, and I'm sure they went to some place in the jungle or a neighboring jungle or jungle adjacent place to film this movie because it doesn't look like a studio lot. If this is a studio lot, that is shocking and honestly quite brilliant that it doesn't look like a studio lot at all. Um, but the planet of Jenna is one of the most immersive planets I've been on in a sci-fi film, and as soon as we hit Jenna, I am blown away with every attribute this planet has. The dangerous creatures and the scenery of it all is beautiful. It's really something to behold. The way we are immersified into this film, I think Trachtenberg and company do a terrific job of completely immersifying you within this film. Um, the action is great, the set pieces is great, and ultimately, I made a joke because I saw this movie with personally my mom and my dad, and I leaned over to my mom. I'm like, "Is this film about breaking the barriers of toxic masculinity?" Because it does feel like that. It does feel like this film is hitting on thematic aspects of toxic masculinity because his father is someone who's stuck in these habitual masculinity traits, that is sensitivity and being in touch with your emotions or weaknesses, and are a downfall to who you want to be as a man or as a predator. And I think that's a very interesting thematic play in this film because that easily could have came off as cheesy and corny and not fitting to the overall nature of a Predator film, but somehow that worked perfectly. Somehow that worked perfectly. I don't know exactly that's what this film's trying to go for, but that's how I read this film. This film is kind of hinting at how toxic masculinity is a barrier that needs to be broken, and they do it through the characters and the species of predators. And I really like that. I really like that. Being sensitive is not a downfall and a bad trait. It's actually a completely humane and characteristic trait that you should have. Being compassionate for other people and other beings is something that should be integral to you as a human or as a species. And Deck doesn't want to feel that way, despite that's how he feels because of how he grew up, of how his brother grew up, of how his father grew up. He doesn't want to be that way. He wants to be what they want him to be. And instead, on this journey of Jenna, which is a dangerous and treacherous one, he goes there to kill this Cowsack monster, and he goes there to bring this Cowsack monster back. And instead, he makes these friends along the way, and he completely changes his senses of thinking, and I really like that. I think this film does hint thematically on toxic masculinity, which might be a woke thing for me to say or a crazy thing for me to say, but if you watch this film, I think you're going to feel the same exact way. Like, there are thematic aspects of this film that do feel like it's hitting on and hinting at toxic masculinity, which is pretty goddamn interesting in an aspect of this film that works that I didn't think it would work at all. So I really enjoyed that. Really, I've said everything I really want to say about this film. I think the creature and species designs of all the different creatures and species we see on this planet is otherworldly. One of my favorite parts of this movie, if not my very favorite part of this movie, is when Tia, the android played by Ella Fanning, is strapped to the back of Deck, and they're on this odyssey together. They are on this journey together, and we are just immersified in the world of Genna, and we get to see the camaraderie and the relationship of Deck and Tia build while on this treacherous journey together. He learns the ropes from her, and honestly, he learns to become a better species as a whole, and he learns to not stray away from his sensitivities and his innate emotions as a species with sensitivities towards others, he learns to embrace that, and he wants to be ultimately like wolves are on Earth. He wants to be with the pack, and he wants to strive with the pack and not just hunt alone anymore, like his tribe of the Yachua and his species of the predator. So I really enjoyed that part, and I think Ella Fanning elevates this film way more than it would have been if it was just a random nobody. Ella Fanning is an underrated actress, and she's really good here, and I think she adds a quality to this film that is much needed. And her relationship as Tia with Deck is one of the most cherishable things about this film, alongside her relationship with Bud and Trek. Bud is such a great aspect of this movie, and it does feel a little bit like a Mandalorian Baby Yoda aspect of this movie, but it doesn't matter because it's such a well done part of this movie. Bud is a great part of this movie. Ella Fanning as Tia is a great part of this movie, and honestly, Ella Fanning as Tessa, who is this rogue and for the company android, is a really good part of this movie. Ella Fanning is really good in this movie, and she's a great aspect of this movie, and I love what she brought to the table here. She is great to accompany Deck, and she makes this film way better than it has any right to be, alongside the filmmaking of Dan Trachtenberg and the acting of Deck. So, shout out to Ella Fanning, and she does a lot for this film. This film is special, it's brilliant, it's creative, it's unique. It's a much needed installment within this franchise of Predator, and I'm so glad we got it. I am so glad with the product we got, and I think a lot of people will be happy with the film we got. This film exceeds expectations. It completely goes in a different direction than you would ever think it would. It's not predictable. Maybe it's predictable at the end because the ending is like, okay, you can see that happening, but really this film takes you in a different way that you would not expect. And to me, that is something I admire, and that's something I appreciate. And I think Dan Trachtenberg is one of the great world builders in the world of film. And inherently, that's been shown with Prey and with Predator Badlands. So I am very happy with the product and with the film I got. I am very happy with the world building I got. I am very happy with the immersification that I got within the world of Genna and the tribe of the Yachua. And there's so much lore built within this film that I can't wait to see the direction this franchise goes in, because this film could have easily gone the boring and easy route and made a film that we've seen 5 to 7 different times. And instead, it's a bold swing, and it's a bold hit, and it's a World Series home run type of hit, in my opinion. It doesn't get better than this in terms of this franchise. I think there's only one film better than this in the entirety of the franchise of Predator. If I had to rank my top 4 Predator films, here's how it would go. I would rank it Predator 1, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's just perfect. Perfect masterpiece, and one of the great installments in the world and genre of sci-fi. Number 2, Predator's Badlands. Just something I did not completely expect to get, and something I was blown away by, and I was greatly impressed, not only with the world building, but the story and the thematic aspects of the film. Number 3, Prey. Just a great sci-fi film, and one of the best sci-fi films of the 2020s, and Dan Trachtenberg's first installment of the Predator franchise. Number 4 would be Adrian Brody's Predators. That's a film that isn't good, but it's good enough. You know what I mean? Like, it is a watchable film, and it's an interesting one to get behind, and that's a film I revisit every once in a while, and I do own that on DVD for some reason. So that's my top 4 Predator films, and seemingly we are gonna get an Alien vs Predator movie, because Weyland Corporations is brought up in this film, and the synthetic, aka android human being we get with Tia and Tessa, is mentioned in this film, Weyland. So we are gonna be setting up for an Alien vs Predator movie, and there's no one I'd rather have direct that film than Dan Trachtenberg, because he's nailing the Predator franchise. He's going to nail the Alien franchise, because he clearly gets it, and he clearly has this great love for the entirety of this realm, whether it's Alien or Predator. He clearly understands it, and he clearly gets it. So Alien vs. Predator in the upcoming years, please be done, and please be way better than the 2 other Alien vs. Predator installments we got. I think it's the first one is Alien vs. Predator, and the second one's Alien vs. Predator Requiem. 2 horrible films. 2 horrible films. And I actually liked the first Alien vs. Predator installment as a kid, but as you grow older, you realize how bad that movie is. In Alien vs. Predator Requiem, I saw as a kid. Other half of my family went to go see Paul Blart Mall Cop, and me and my mom went to go see Alien vs. Predator Requiem. And honestly, I think the family that went to go see Paul Blart Mall Cop left better satisfied than the ones me and my mom who saw Alien vs Predator Requiem. So, listen, I like this film. The only part of this film that I didn't like was the beginning, but that was just me getting used to hearing predators talk and have this emotional depth. A film about predators has emotional depth and pretty strong thematic aspects to it. Who would have thought? And who would have thought a swing like this would have worked? So bravo to my guy Dan Trachtenberg for taking this big of a swing and this creative of a swing and building this world that will go on to be successful in the future. So I'm curious where this film lands um, in the box office and how profitable it is, because I do think this is going to be a profitable film. I don't care really about box office stuff, but I do care when it's a film that I like and I want to see more of. Like, that's why I cared so much, and that's why I saw 28 Years Later so much, because I want to see that film sequels be made. And with this film, I want to see the sequel being made because there's clearly a sequel being set up. Um, Really, the only thing I really didn't like about this film otherwise is two, a sequel was being set up, but I don't really care that much about the sequel being set up. Is it an aspect of this film I wouldn't have wanted to see? Sure. But Dan Trachtenberg knows this world and knows what he's doing so much that the fact that he's willing to set up a sequel speaks to how much he's ready to make that film and where he wants to go with this franchise. So I'm fine with that. And Tessa, who is the sister or the synthetic android that is compliant or coexists with Tia, is the main bad guy in this movie, alongside Mother, who is sent by whaling corporations, and they are brought to this Earth to bring back the Kalisek, which is the big monster that Deck wants to go after. And Tessa is the complete opposite of Tia, despite Tia and Tessa having this human sensitivity installed within their programming. Tessa wants to benefit the corporation in Wayland. Tia, who was saved by Deck and the clan of Yacha. Um, I'm gonna have a hard time pronouncing that clan. I said that word like 5 to 10 times before doing this video, and I still can't pronounce it correctly. The Yacha tribe. So she has this sensitivity towards Bud, who is the son of Kalsic, who they meet along the journey, Deck and Tia, and she has a strong endearment towards them, and she wants the betterment for those two. But Tessa, who works for Wayland Corp, and is strictly focused on bringing Deck, aka the Yacha, back to planet Earth and the Kalsec for research purposes. Tia is not in that same boat. She cares about these species, and she doesn't want to see anything done wrongly to them, and she doesn't want atrocities committed towards them. And Tia is wrapped up in the world of the Mother. And honestly, I say I didn't like her aspect of the story too much, but it's a much needed aspect of the story, because they could have easily filled this with a human bad guy who is a human who should have the qualities of being sensitive, and instead they do it with an android who has this programming of being sensitive. And despite that not being like my main highlight from this film, I do think it's a very much needed aspect of this film, and I think it works. I think it works. I think it works. So ultimately, Dan Trachtenberg is very reminiscent of Ridley Scott and James Cameron when they first had made their installments of the Alien franchise. Ridley Scott made Alien, and then he made Alien Covenant and Prometheus. James Cameron made Aliens, and then he also made Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. And it's very reminiscent to me of what Dan Trachtenberg's doing with Predator. He made Prey, and then he made Killers of Killers, and now he's made Predator Badlands. And all three of those movies are very good. I haven't seen Killers of Killers yet, but I will. All three of those movies are very good. And he clearly understands the world that he wants to build, and he clearly understands this franchise like no other person does. And I wouldn't want anyone else to film these films other than Dan Trachtenberg. And what he does with this film and what he's done with this franchise so far is very reminiscent to Cameron and Ridley Scott. And he's not as great as filmmakers as those two. Those are two of the greatest filmmakers of all time. But to say he isn't world building like those two would just be a lie and a massive understatement. So Dan Trachtenberg, brilliant. Ella Fanning, a great aspect to this film, and she's just a really good actor at this point. She brings a great levity to this film. Some of my favorite parts of this movie is when Deck and Ella Fanning's character, Tia, when Tia's on his back and they're journeying through the world of Jenna, not only are we getting to immersify and be wowed by the aspects of this world Jenna, we are seeing the camaraderie of these two elevate every time and every step they take on this journey of Jenna to the Kawasek. So I love that. I think Deck and Tia's relationship in this film worked way more than I could have ever hoped. I think the inclusion of Bud, who is this Kelsex kid, who we don't find out until later in the film, but the reason why the Kelsex doesn't kill Deck later in this film is because the Kelsex kid, Bud, saves Deck and Tia. And they kill this big species, this bison bull, I think it's called, and they kill it and they use it as meat. And Deck and Bud and Tia are sitting. Tia can't eat, so he gives Deck the piece of meat he was going to give to Tia to Bud. And Bud spits on Deck. And Deck is like, what the fuck? This dude just spit on me? And no, that's a sign of respect. And he's making his mark on you that you aren't going to be hurt by my species and my mom, but you are one of us and you're a part of my family now. So that's why the Caltech doesn't kill Deck later in the film. And that's ultimately why Deck is so heavily integrated with the Caltech now, particularly the son. So the battles in this film are great. The action sequences in this film are great. The set pieces, the world building, and the CGI in this film is off the charts. And I really love this film. It's one of the best sci-fi films I've seen in quite some time, and I am super happy with the product I got. And I'm super happy with Dan Trachtenberg, who seemingly has a knack for this world that no other person who ever directed a Predator film had. So my ultimate rating for this film, my ultimate opinion of this film is, I give this film a 4.5 out of 5, which is a massive score, and a score I am shocked to say I'm giving it. If you would have asked me at 9 a.m. this morning, hey, what do you think Predator Badlands will be rated by you? And I would have been like 2.5, 3.5. That's my barrier. And somehow this film breaks down the barriers of toxic masculinity, and it also breaks down my expected rating for this film. So 4.5 out of 5. One of the best sci-fi films I've seen all year. Ella Fanning and company are great in this movie, and everything about this film is done so well, and it's a much needed derived sensation in this franchise. The way this film derives from the previous films is much needed, and this film needed something refreshing and new, and that's what Dan Trachtenberg does with Predator Badlands. So it is your boy Matt Talks Films. Hopefully I didn't go all over the place with this film, because I was excited about this film and I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to start and where I wanted it to end, but hopefully I got to everything, and hopefully you go see this film, and hopefully you go support films like this. Despite this being a franchise, despite this film being more of a franchise with the way it sets up a sequel, this is the best type of franchise to have, because it's a director that's solely dedicated to this franchise and ready to give you the best installments of the franchise compared to his previous films. So 4.5 out of 5, one of the best sci-fi films I've seen in some time, and honestly, I was this close to giving it a 5. So it's your boy Matt Talks Films. I will be back maybe this weekend with another film review, and I know I've said that recently, I haven't done it. I'm sorry. All right, I've been doing sports content, and I should be doing another film review for you guys, which I think I might. Okay, there's a couple other films coming out this week. Legs, if I had Legs, I'd Kick You, and another one that I want to watch, and hopefully I feel good enough to review about it, whether it's strong I didn't like it or strong I liked it. So it's your boy Matt Talks Films. If you've been watching these videos for a while, I have a hard time closing these videos out because I love talking to you guys so much. But Predator's Badlands, one of the most shocking films of the year, and a pleasant, and exciting installment in the franchise of Predator. Dan Trachtenberg, my guy. Anyways, follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. If you made it this far in the video, freaking give me a like, give me a comment, and subscribe. Why not? You made it this far in the video. Follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Sports if you like sports content as well. So I probably will see you guys this week because Christy, the new Sydney Sweeney boxing movie, comes out, and then Die My Love with Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson comes out tomorrow. But if I don't see you this weekend, I will certainly see you next weekend for Running Man, which is the remake by Edgar Wright and starring Glenn Powell. So I will see you this weekend. If not, you'll see me this weekend and next weekend for new videos and reviews. So it's your boy Matt Talks Sports, Matt Talks Films, whatever username you want to call me. I am back, and these are my thoughts for Predator Badlands. I'll see you this weekend, or I'll see you next. It's been a good time talking with you guys. It's your boy Matt Talks Films. Peace.